So I was recently asked by someone on YouTube about my gate sensors. Now this is a electronic gate opening kit that I installed 18 months ago. There's another video on YouTube describing how I did the installation, so you may want to look at that to understand what the installation consists of, as well as what kit I've been using, because I'm not going to cover that in this video. The only purpose of this video was to talk about the sensors. You have sensors on the left and the right which detect anything obstructing the gate when it's closing. And it's important to note the sensors are only designed to detect something whilst the gates are closing. And the idea is basically, well, it's quite simple and straightforward really. Gates close, something in the way, it stops, preventing any damage. So these are the sensors. There's one emitter and one receiver, and they form a beam. So if I should open the gates now, gates open without a problem. I could walk through the beam, it wouldn't affect the gates opening. But if I should close the gate, so if I should close the gates now, gates start to close, you can see. And if I were to break the beam now, so I broke the beam and the gates stopped and reversed and went back into the open position. So yeah, as the beam is broken, gates stop and reverse back into the open position. Prevents any damage to vehicles or anything like that. Now in my installation you can see my gates are very big. Hefty gates, steel construction, and if I were to let them close and hit a car, it would cause damage. I wouldn't say the sensors are required in all installations. If you've got a lightweight gate, maybe a single arm, maybe it's not necessary. Particularly so if a car's not going through your gate. But for me, definitely necessary, and I'm sure in the past has prevented damage to my cars. I'm going to show you how they're wired up. Now I've got a sensor on the left and the right as you need to, and the sensor on the right on this side. I'm not going to go on the other side of the gate right now. I'm just going to show you where the wiring is coming in. Here's the wiring coming in from that sensor. It goes into that box. It runs on that rubber trunking on the floor. This rubber trunking will at some point, or the wires in the trunking will be buried in the ground. I've just not gotten around to it. Out of the wall I've got the sensor wire coming in here, and both wires run up to this control box. Now I'm going to open the control box to show you where the wires come in. So I've unscrewed the control box, and here we go. Now this isn't going to be very helpful, to be honest with you. The wires are coming up through this piping here into here, and you've got all these connectors. You can ignore the connectors, they were done for convenience, for connecting and disconnecting things quickly. When I was doing the installation, it made life a lot easier. Now what I've got here, this wire here comes from one of the sensors, and the other one, so this is the other sensor. So one will be the emitter and one will be the receiver. The one on the left here is coming from the emitter, and the one on the right here is coming from the receiver. It's a straightforward installation. The only error you could make, I suppose, is the way you've wired this up on the receiver and the emitter. They don't come pre-wired. In fact, it comes with no wiring, so you have to open up the emitter and the receiver, connect the wires, and run them up to this slot here. Now if this is at all unclear, not surprising, it's not the easiest thing to look at. This diagram here is much easier to see. You've got here the emitter and the receiver. The emitter runs up to connection 13 and 14. The receiver has 4 wires, and they run up, you can see running up from here. There's a positive and a negative going straight back up to 13 and 14, again the same place. You've also got this communication wire, the green and yellow one, and they run up to 15 and 16. So there's very little room to get that part wrong. But the receiver itself, you have to open the receiver and the emitter up, and you have to make sure that's wired correctly. Once wired, it's worked faultlessly. It's been working for the last year and a half. Never seems to fail. Every time the receiver emitter beam is broken, the gates do stop and return back to their open position. I hope that's helpful. I understand this is not the simplest thing to make sense of when you're looking at it in real life rather than the circuit diagram, but I suppose all I can say is wide as per the instructions, it certainly does work.